First of all, I just wanted to thank you because you've done more to defend historical Christianity than most church leaders. You're brilliant and encouraged are a blessing to the church. I'm a pastor and I teach worldview. And so here's the premise of the question. I and other theologians have arrived at the conclusion that Marxism is a Christian heresy, co-opting biblical language, untethering it from its metaphysical roots, and inverting biblical anthropology and Christian ethics as it seeks to impose its moral vision on the world. Therefore, first and foremost, we have a theological problem. As such, what is your advice to the church, or more specifically, for pastors, to help us rid ourselves of this deadly parasite?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate those kind words. I think that this is an important question. I think you are right in a sense. I mean, it's complicated, not to be like a weirdo, but Marxism is a Christian heresy. But really, Hegel created the Christian heresy, and then Marx turned that upside down. So you have the inversion of Christian virtues and values. I don't think specifically to invert Christian virtues and values. You had Hegel try to appropriate them into a theosophical mold, and then Marx tried to turn Hegel inside out. So there's like a little extra step to it, and it's a little more complicated. But the short version of that is, yeah, it's a Christian heresy. And it's not, like I've used the word Gnostic over and over and over again, which there were Gnostic cults that were Christian heresies all through the 1st and 2nd century. Irenaeus, and against heresies, condemned them and put the nail kind of in that coffin. You can read actually in Augustine where he's talking about the 80 some odd heresies of the Christian church by the beginning of the 4th century that were being put down. So this is a constant war that was being waged at the time. Of course, when you read Confessions by Augustine, he's confessing to having been a Hermeticist. If you didn't know that. He was a wizard and he became a Catholic and was confessing to his previous life. A lot of people think it was like sexual immorality and all this. No, that's just part of being in a cult. And he's confessing to have been a Hermeticist. So what I think we just keep kind of hitting on, but I'm not saying the word clearly because I'm not talking specifically to Christians and pastors in my messaging right now, is that the fruit of the Spirit of discernment is actually what needs to be there. And I think pastors are there and their job is largely to provide that discernment. I don't want to. I think it's slightly inappropriate, at least in not my particular skill set, to try to parse theology for you guys. That's your lot. It's like I keep getting called, hey James, help us with education. I'm like, damn it, I have to learn education theory. Hey James, help us with law. I don't want to learn law. Hey James, what do we do with theology? Really? No, there's lots of you. So what you need to do is, I think, what pastors need to do is work on their discernment and get very, very clear, and then bring that discernment to their flock, because that's their job. And I think that it's absolutely crucial that we have pastors that are doing that. And just if I might throw some gospel at you, in one of my favorite passages, which means that I don't have that many in my chamber, and it makes it sound like I know the gospel way better than I do. But in Matthew 10:16, Jesus very famously says, and I talk about this all the time, I send you out, which means into the dangerous situation to go evangelize. He sends out his apostles. I send you out, and you need to be as discerning as serpents, or as wise as serpents, and as gentle as doves. Well, that's 2 commandments that Jesus gives for how you have to deal with this kind of a situation. So pastors are called to provide their flock with discernment, but also provide the flock with a call to true Christian gentleness, which is not to be a pushover. It's not to give in to every single thing. It's not to love your neighbor as yourself. It's to love God first and love your neighbor as yourself. It's a little more complicated, right? You have to get it right before you can love your neighbor at all. And so I think it's the call to discernment, but also to call to the immense power that, if I might speak theologically, maybe a little out of step, that Christ calls to the power of gentleness. But not a weak, flaccid gentleness, not a fake, winsome gentleness, but the kind that will call out an evil when it encounters it, a kind that will drive a demon out before it welcomes the possessed to the table to have fellowship. So you're not going to just affirm the transgender status or non-binary status. You have to drive the demon out first. But yeah, please come help. Let us help you. Have dinner. Sit down with the people that are outside and try to bring them back into, John 1 says, the Logos. And I think that, so giving that message, I think pastors need to think very seriously about how can I get my church to be more discerning, but also to use the power of Christian gentleness, which is not, again, flaccid or stupid. It has that meekness quality to it that stands up for what is right when it's necessary, but isn't going out and picking fights and punching people in the nose or beating people over the head with a Bible or a 2x4. And figure out how to bring that message, because I think that message will actually help. Another one is actually in great defiance of Christian wisdom, as Donald Trump recently got in trouble for making fun of, is to encourage civic engagement. If you want good values, if we believe that churches that have it right are centers of producing good values, and by the way, community organization, and we want that to go into the civic part of our life, then you better be encouraging Christians to get involved in civic life. It's actually the thing Marcuse said. You're going to go in and do the job. You're going to go in and you're going to be a county commissioner and you're going to bring your Christian worldview with you. But that's not the same as going and trying to turn the county commission into a church, which is a different thing.